Good morning, everyone, and a warm welcome to our Quilt Sundays. A kind request to put all your phones on silent. The floor will be open later for a question and answer session. Today's MOG Sunday speaker is Aruna Wagh, the Region Director, Ministry of Labour and Employment, Government of India. This dynamic personality has been actively involved in a plethora of fields, right from theatre to costume designing to art of quilting, and all in all, playing a strong hand in women empowerment. On International Working Women's Day, she organized a quilting competition which led to an upsurge of enthusiasm and curiosity for the medium of quilting, especially amongst the younger generation. We welcome Ms. Aruna Wagh to the MOG Dais to share her interesting journey with us, and we look forward to this session. Welcome, ma'am.
It's a very good morning to all of you, and I am very much glad that Museum of Goa has given me this opportunity to present before you all the form of the ancient times, the forms of Kappiyali quilt. In many of the poems, Sri Aruna Wagh writes, सुरकुतलेली काया तिची नभा एवढी माया, सुरकुतलेली काया तिची नभा एवढी माया, कप्याळामध्ये सापडली मला माझ्या आजीची ग छाया. The art of this art, Kappiyali, is a very ancient art. Times immemorial, we can just go back to Ramayana. And beyond that, since the history of stitching started, and then the leftover, whatever was there, the ladies or the other people, they put it together into different geometrical designs and formed it into bedspreads. Now in India, there are two types of Kappiyalis. In Goa, we call them Kappiyali, and in other parts, they call them Godadi. So what are these two things like, Kappiyali is a thing, it is made from the new leftover clothes, scrap of the cloth, and Godadi is from the used clothes. But both of them have very important since our childhood. The first thing when we come out of this world and when we are born in this world, we are wrapped in that cloth, and that is the warmth, that is the actual emotional touch coming from our grandmothers, coming from our mothers. And it has been a tradition in Goa that whenever a newborn is born, we don't use a new cloth. We used to take in the olden days, they used to take a small baby wrap from the person who is already having a child, and then the new clothes will be used. So this has been a tradition from so long. As far as this Kappiyali goes, this Kappiyali is formed into different. Can you show one picture? It is like the leftover clothes. They put them together in different forms. It can be like in the form of natural fruits, leaves, flowers, or any other it can be like rat, samai, rusi, any forms, and they are small pieces have been stitched, and then they will make a big bedspread. For that big bedspread, they will call Kappiyali, and the small ones which are made, they will call mane. Now this in Goa, we have a tradition that this Kappiyali will go in the trousseau of every person who is getting married, every bride. And the manes will go to the mother, and it will be gifted to her during the time of Dohare Jevan, or we call it Fula in our Konkani language. There is a song, there is a kavya, there is a poem for the chori, which is a tradition. So what is that chori? They say that chori bae chori ge kodale sundar rechi ge motiya laili hari ge motiya laili goshi ge chori shivli mamare nari ge chori pauli shiroda deshi ge. Means chori bae chori ge kodale sundar rechi ge. They are singing it for the deity. Mamari is a Mahamaya from Shiroda, the original deity of Shiroda, and they would sing that Motiya Laili Goshige, Chori Pauli Shiroda Deshige. Now, when Chori was stitched in the ancient India, then the leftover clothes would be there. Then we had a tradition of stitching those nine pieces Chori. So, what they would do from the leftover clothes? Nine pieces chori was stitched of khan cloth, and then with the leftover cloth they would put them together, stitch it with hands, and make simple motifs. The motifs will be traditional motifs like Prajakta fool, then Tulsi, Swastik, lotus, and all this, and keep them. And when they used to collect many, then they would put them together and make them a quilt. In between the layers, they will put new clothes, which we used to call manzar part. Or they will use saris, or they will use other things, whichever leftover clothes they would have. And with the available resources, with minimum of the tools, that is thread and needle, they would build this. Now, this ancient art, which mostly ladies were involved into it, and afternoon was the time. We could have seen in that picture. Afternoon time, they would come together and they would say that, "Abhi mere beti ka शादी है, तो मेरे बेटी के लिए रूसों में वो देना है, तो मेरे घर में आप आके एक स्टिच कर सकते हैं." It will be stitched in my house. Afternoon, all the ladies will gather together and they will start stitching. Because it is not one person's activity. It is a very big thing, so it requires many hands. And the beautiful aspect of Goan quilt is that, Kappiyali is that, it is like, it is stitched in the round circles. The katha work has been done in round, katha work has been done in squares and many other forms. Even on the godri it is done. Godri is basically, it is not having any artistic motives, but it is a plain thing. Only with the katha work they will do art from there. But here the small pieces will be joined together colorfully and they will make an artwork. And this is there in entire of India, like Fulora in Rajasthan and all that. But in Goa, we call it Kappiyali. Kopyo means pieces of cloths and joined together is Kappiyali. So this was a very great tradition, and till today some of the old ladies, they are very fond of doing. And if they want to visit a newborn child, they won't take any thing from the market. They will stitch themselves by the hand and they will present it. It was our tradition also. But in this modernization and in this fast practice, we have lost that tradition. And on this International Women's Day, we were celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. In this era, what has happened is that Women's Day is being celebrated like Haldi Kunku. Everybody gets together and it's like a birthday or something like that. But for my department, Ministry of Labour, it's a very big matter of pride. And we are concerned with it. We have been celebrating International Women's Day pertaining to the labour rights and legislations given to the women in empowering the working woman class. And that is how we were trained into, and I made it a point that we could have this Azadi Ka Amrut Mahotsav, 75th year, relating to that, not as Haldi Kumku, but what will be our rights and what we can do further. So we thought of reviving this, and I had honor of getting guidance and help from Honorable Governor Shri Pillai Saab and Madam, and both of them they they were there for my program, and from there we launched this small form to each and every talukas, wherein in the villages, wherein we can get some participation. So it was a big task because people have forgotten this art now and how it can be. But to my surprise, when we launched that competition of 27, we had a mega, it was a mega program, and it was literally representation from each and every taluka. We did not go and teach this skill to anybody. Each and every person was knowing this. And they asked their grandmothers, they asked their mothers how they did it, and the youngsters, they competed in this. This was the best part of it was people from our villages, those were just sitting by doing the self-help groups, and my office is instrumental in getting them together and making them into self-help, organizing them into self-help group, which is one part of my office work. The first part is that we move into the industries and we train the workforce of these industries. We have joint educational programs in that the union, the management and the workmen, we train them together, and that is our objective. But since the unorganized sector is a huge sector in these days, we have been given duties to go into the village, train the farmers, train the women folks, get them together into self-help group, Mahila Mandals that used to do earlier. But what do they do? So if this skills that is already there, it need not be taught to them, it is just coming from generations to generation, just by seeing, just by noticing, and if that can be put together, then we could have a major economic revival in this tourism state of Goa. And we can have an art that can be imbibed by these ladies, and a lot of these man hours that has been wasted by just talking and gossiping can be put together fruitfully by our traditional skills. And that is what we did it, and I think by the grace of Almighty and Nataraj, we succeeded into it, and now we are having clusters in each and every taluka of Goa. Some had a beautiful hand, some did it just totally. It requires a lot of patience. If it is machine made, it is beautiful, but if it is handmade, then it is more beautiful, with the hand touched and with entire emotions and all that. So this particular art, Kappiyali art, in Goa, it goes in a very different style. If you say if you go to Kankon, they say Uppyayan. If you go to Ponda, they say Kappyayan. The phonetics changes, but the theme is the same theme. The theme is the same theme, and this theme, if we can take it further, then I think our ladies can do wonders. In my village, I consulted all the ladies, those who were beyond 60 and all. So they told me many motives. They suggested to me many motives, and all the motives were there in that particular competition, which we held on 27th of this month, April. So my inspiration to hold this competition was my grandmother. So my grandmother had gifted me one Kappiyali for my trousseau in my wedding. So which my husband Vishnu Wagh always used to say that when during the time of my wedding, she was not there, means she had already passed away. So my husband would always say, see, माझी आजी माय, माय आणि आजी माय. माय म्हटल्यार mother-in-law and great mother-in-law is आजी माय. माझ्या आजी माय माझ्या खातीर ऑलरेडी हें करून दवरला, कपयाळें करून दवरला आणि तें कपयाळें he always used to take that and he used to have that. So he's saying this is the not only emotional touch, but it is the intellectual face of a woman. The illiterate woman would put those pieces together without even going into the art colleges and form different motifs, all symmetrically joined together. So he used to give that Majima kitki intellectual astali ashi karpa. And with the small hands, so he used to say, that is why I coined it warmth of Kappiyali. Warmth of Kappiyali quilt. Warmth is coming from that emotional thing, and the intellectual face of the woman, which is always there, which has been always neglected. Which has been always neglected in our home. And we say that Ghar ki murgi dal barabar, something like that, not so that. So he would always point it like that, Machi Ajimai, emotional aslis, तिच्याकडे खूप हे असलेच पण ती खूप इंटेलेक्चुअल असली, and so is my mother and so are the other women of my state. So I was telling you for this dhalo. In this dhalo, all these ladies will get together and they will sing this, and whatever they this also was depicted in those poems. After that, the afternoon time that they will get, they would prepare quilts and prepare quilts in a different way, which gave them best out of waste was one part. Second was that the stories that they couldn't share with anybody, the stories that they couldn't share with their mother-in-law, the heart feelings that they couldn't share with anybody, the gossip at that time was shared there. And then there came all the fugris. In those fugris we are saying, Maji mai kashi ge, Maji mai ashi ge, Maja de kasa ge, Sambhamra sarko Maja de. So this particular folklore comes from the getting together of these women folks in those days. And in the afternoons they would share their heart feelings. They would share, even they would have proposals, what a matchmaking in that time. Because they will get together, village folks, and that was one of the nice pastime. While quilting that, while putting those stitches together, they would stitch, two houses. They would stitch, they would bring together, or they would bring two families together. That was the beautiful part of it. So there are so many things, good works that this quilting has been doing emotionally, socially, culturally, and economically in today's era also. Now the clusters that we have formed in this with the women, they are selling this quilt. One quilt goes about like 3,000, 5,000 as per leaf, and it is a great source of income for the ladies in the. And as far as handicraft is going on, in India, in Goa, we have those coconut shells, and something has been prepared from the coconut shell. And the seashells, they are coming. We are not preparing, since we had those menis, in Sampol and this Chikali and all that. And now those menis are not, those window pane moistures, they are not available now. And they are all coming from China, but we do sell it like, Goa ka hai, Goa ka hai. But asal mein Goa ka kya hai? Little paper mache we could do. That paper mache thing, like, Kashmir ka paper mache to koi unka like Goan, like, we get Goan paper mache is a different form. And a paper mache thing about the Kashmir is very, very different, gold leaf and all that. So Goa ka kya hai? What is that thing, this? So this particular art, if it is getting a recognition by the government and recognition from the, especially geographical recognition from government of Goa and tourism department, like it will be a great advantage to my Goa. And we can say that I have written many letters to all the ministers and all my senior ups and all the commissioners of art and culture department, central for recognition of this art as far as Goan traditional art is concerned. So the skill that it cannot be, it is just coming to us. It is not, it cannot be taught on something. वो जैसे ही चलते आया है वो चलते आ रहा है और it will just follow. So with that thing, what happened from the competition? We got a huge response, and again the people started doing it. Again, people, they went in for that. Now they are taking help of social media. They are taking help of other marketing thing, and those ladies started doing. So there was a great revival, but still a lot is to be done. A lot of the things are to be, brought forth as far as this art is concerned. It is like for all those people, those who are into art, those who have those who are studying in art colleges and all that. It is like a big collage. They would use the, but collage is not stitched, they just pasted and then painted and something like that. But this is stitched together and kept it and can be used for years and years. I have one that which my grandmother gave me that is 45 years old. So it can be, but you cannot put it in the machine, like then the stitches would come out of that. So it is to be hand washed and pressed and kept. So we have just kept it like as a remembrance of my grandmother, and different traditions from the entire Goa. If you see, Kanpon people will go in for it in different forms. They would usually make those kaju apple and other things, other motifs, and so these people, those who are Bades and all that, they would make swastik, lotus, and all this. So the more interiors you are, their mind works on the natural effects of it. And this also I've seen that if you are into the cities, then we have the swastiks and all that religious things. There's another one thing is that Shambar Kappiyali. That is the climax of this Kappiyali. So Shambar pieces of Kopio put together and then stitched together. It won't be stitched in any of the forms or any of the call it artifact, but it will be just stitched overlap, and it will be quilted with a very thin, very big thread. With the thread they used to use for putting some curios together. The shopkeeper, earlier days, what he'll do, he would give us anything in paper, and then what they will do is that we would use a thread to bind it together. So that thread will be kept by these ladies and used for this Kappiyali. So why they would use that thread? Because in those days that thread was costly and it was not available. So they would even use that particular thread to bind this. So this was the intellectual and the emotional part of it. When I went into the Google and typed Kappiyali, nothing could be seen from there. And so is the experience of my friend Mansi. And then I thought that it should be listed in Google. If Google is not having this particular art, that means somewhere we are behind. We have to coordinate together, and great personalities. And if a museum of this is having everything art and all sorts of art I have seen here. And
is it displayed here?
It is. I don't think it is. They will have collage, and we were just discussing how we can coordinate.
I think it should be displayed here also.
Yeah. Just 2 days back I was in Delhi, and we had a conference. So I spoke to my chairman regarding this, getting all the departments of government together, and it requires a lot of workforce to get those ladies from the grassroots to the city, and then we can do some tie-ups for them and help them out, and we can do even the a museum of this can put something together, and it would be a great task.